Hello, good vog, welcome to the Baal Shem Tov's Melave Malka, as it were, um, where we are turning a story by the Baal Shem Tov, talk about it, and we learn is officially the shir of Sichos Haran, where we learn the Sichos of Rabbeinu and learn about Hashem from that. So this this Shabbos was Pashas Noach. A lot of different details, some mind-boggling ideas. The Medrash says that when Noach came out of the ark of the table, he started crying. He saw the devastation of the world. He started crying. So the Kodesh Baruch Hu tells him, "You fool! Now you're crying. It was incumbent upon you to cry before the Mabul," which really is reflecting an amazing fact that why would Kodesh Baruch Hu tell him, "You fool, you had to cry"? Was it incumbent upon you to cry before? Why? What's the difference? The only thing that makes sense here, and Zer seems to back it up, is that Noach, it was possible for Noach to prevent the Mabul, the deluge, from coming. Because otherwise, why the Kodesh Baruch Hu tell him, "You fully had to," was incumbent upon you to cry before the Mabul. Unless crying before the Mabul in a really begging on behest of the world would have prevented the deluge, the Mabul. In itself is quite an amazing insight. That before Noach, after he came, now before the Mabul, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, "What's the reason for the Mabul? What's the reason for the deluge?" He said the reason is that the urges of the heart of man uh, is just bad all day long. So after the Mabul, Noach comes out of the ark of the Teva, and he brings the offering. And Hashem smells the offering, and he swears never to bring the deluge to the entire world again. And what's the reason why not? It's well because the urge of the heart of man is bad, is evil from his onset, from his childhood. So the same reason to bring the deluge to begin with becomes the reason to never bring the deluge ever again. So what gives? What's going on? How does it make sense? How the two things jive? The Baal HaTanya speaks about it in his Siddur. There's a portion that speaks about. I saw it many years ago. It says about the newish Baal Tshuva. I was like, what newish? I was the new Baal Tshuva. I was into everything that is like Kabbalistic. What it is, mystery, whatever. Esoteric. It had this special gleam. I don't know, special allure. So I looked I don't think I understood much of it, obviously, but he said this is the kavanas, the intentions, the meditations of the mikvah according to Baal Shem HaKadosh. And he says that the primal name of creation, the highest name that we have, is the one that denotes the level of the keser, of the crown, of the atik yomin, which we are learning in the Kutam Haran share. And that name is Aleph K Yud K, which in Lashon Kodesh, when you take that name, it means I will be. So that is, Keser is the reality that is going to emanate from it. So Shem Eke, that's the beginning. There will be reality. There will be so forth and so on. The first letter of that name is the letter Aleph. That's the first letter of the Aleph base, and that's the first letter of that particular name. And the Baal Tanya says as follows, that we know where there is a principle that the din, the verdict, or determination, always starts happening in the root. En adin nimtak ela b'sharshay. The verdict, the determination, the judgment always begins at its root, at the very initial reason. So the Baal Tanya says in the Kavonas Baal Shem Tov, the mikveh, that he brings that particular fact that we just spoke about, that the reason for the mabul was because the urges of the heart of man are always bad all day. And after the mabul, Noach brings the karbonos, Kadosh Baruch Hu swears never again to ever bring deluge, bring a mabul to the world. Why? Because it's a predisposition of human beings to have evil urges in their hearts from them when they're very, very young. So, which means once you're in a situation that people commit heavy offenses and infractions, after the fact, what can you do? This is where the judgment comes in. This is where but if you were to go to the very initial reason of the verdict, of the determination, of the judgment, it says, what's the reason for it? When you're at the very beginning, you can flip it this way, in favor, or you can flip it, to the con, to the bad. And the higher the determination, the higher the din, the higher the judgment is, the more broad, the more dramatic it is, the higher you have to go. Like, let's say that you are working as a clerk in a certain department in an insurance company, okay? And the thing is, let's say that you're doing processing claims, okay? And the thing is, I don't know, it doesn't jive with you, whatever it is, makes you tired. You want to move within the department, to I don't know, to doing claim adjustments. You can't just get up and move over to, choose, okay, from now on, I'm a claim adjuster. I'm no longer, I don't know, whatever it is that he was doing before. He can't do that. The only way it can be done is if you go to the manager. The manager is the head. He is the shirish. He is the root of the deciding root of what goes on in that department. So if you want to change your role from, I don't know, processing claims to adjusting claims, I don't really know what the difference is. Anyhow, maybe it's one and the same, I don't know. You need to go to the manager, and by the manager, you are actually um, reaching the very, very root of determination which job you're going to have in the department. So over there, the manager can, as it were, ameliorate or sweeten determination. It says, okay, you know something, you can work instead of claims, you can work, I don't know, adjusting, whatever. But what happens if you want to change your job in the insurance company from from claims to marketing? I think I'm going to be good in marketing. I want to work in marketing. So I want to move to a different department, to work in marketing. Well, you can't go to the manager of the claims department and ask to work in the marketing department because the manager of the claims department does not have jurisdiction. He's not the shirish, the root of the determination of where, what will happen in the market department and what will happen with the marketing department. I mean, the claims department and the marketing department. He's only in charge of the claims department. He cannot make a decision that they're going to actually influence the marketing department. So what has to be done, you have to go to the person who is the manager of both the claims and the marketing. Being he's in charge of both, he's the one that determines what is going to be done in both departments. He can help you sweeten the verdict, change the verdict, and sweeten the din, and move you from the claims department to the marketing department. Whereas a din nimtak, the judgment is always being sweetened at its root, at its shores. So Pashas Noach is the prime example of once the carbon is being brought, HaKadosh Baruch Hu flips it over. So that maybe gives an explanation to that thing that the Medrash says and the Zohar emphasizes. Noach comes out of the teva and he sees the world in its destruction and starts to cry. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, you fool, it was incumbent upon you to cry before the Mabul, which tells you that had Noach done that, the Mabul would have been avoided. The world would not have been destroyed. In other words, the crying, the praying, the begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu before the Mabul would have prevented the Mabul. Why? Because it would have brought the issue before the highest tribunal, the Aleph of the Shem, Aleph K Yud K, the Shorish of everything. And then it can be flipped from this side to that side. So it can be explained in the fact that when did it flip from the world will destroy to Kodesh Baruch Hu swearing that it will never happen again, is when the Korbanos were brought. That's what we said in the Shalma Purim Sfaseinu, we will pay, instead of Korbanos, the Tefillah will be. That's what I mean. Noach had to daven and to pray and to beg. Avraham Avinu did it, but he stopped at a certain point because he figured, okay, this is as long as it can be. He cannot go beyond asking, for Kodesh Baruch Hu for more clemency beyond having 10 tzaddikim in the entire area of Sdom V'Amorah, Sodom and Gomorrah. But even Avraham Avinu did not reach the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Moshe Rabbeinu is the Tzaddik Emes. He simply does not take no for an answer. That's it. No, you can't. You can't do it. You just can't do it. If you're going to, take them out, take me out too. He goes up to our Sinai, 40 days, 40 nights, doesn't eat, doesn't drink, nothing. That's it, finished. and he sweetens the game. So just a little thought about the Pasha. Let's take a look at a little bit about the Baal Shem HaKadosh for this week, a little bit about the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov. So it says as follows, Sheres Yisrael v'godol b'neviyim. The Baal Shem Tov was as great as a Navi. By the way, the Baal Tanya says that he asked his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mizrich, about the greatest in the Baal Shem Tov. And the Maggid of Mizrich told him that had the Baal Shem Tov would have been one of the patriarchs, he would have been one of them. He would have been greater than the Tanaim and the Amoraim, the Nevi'im, whatever it is, to the point that he says, if it would have been at the age of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, he would have been the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov and the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Tanya says, if my Rebbe did not assure me that Baal Shem Tov was human, he says, I wouldn't have believed a human being can reach this kind of madrega. And it says he was zoicha to be malad the malchus until the Kesser Shem Tov. It was zoicha through his emunah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the dveikus in Hashem Yisbarach to the tachlis emes that had miracles done to him like Rabbi Yechanina ben Dosa. Miracles that has not been seen, has not been heard from the days of the Tanoim. Says his Rav Muvak, his Rebbe was Achia Shiloini. He says it was full with Chochma, and Yiras Chet, Ve'emes, Ve'chasidus, Ve'anova, Ve'shifros HaRuach. He says the Ruach HaKodesh used to reside by him constantly. It is says that at every instant, the Baal Shem Tov would perceive the entire present, everything that is happening. He had the Sogas and Aliyas Neshama, Mamash like Rabbi Akiva and his friends in Gilu Eliyahu. And when he has put us on the Regel Emes in the learning of Kisva Arizal, Dak Hashem, and Amuna, Cholamidas Teves Sheba'olam. Maybe it's good to repeat a little bit that which we spoke, learning Torah Samech, Torah 60, Nekutim Haran. When we speak about, Beno says that there are paths in understanding Torah that require all the wealth in the world. And he says that all the wealth in the world can be only stored in a crypto wallet that is called Arichas Yomin. And he says, what is Arichas Yomin that we're talking about is widening and enlarging your days every hour with more Kedusha, with more. So we spoke about what about these ways? What kind of ways are they? So, I mean, what are these paths? Kavayachol Jamila speaks about. It says, B'derech Efshar. It is said that, in the Gemara, says Tashma. The Gemara starts and it says, coming here. This is a mode of learning, of understanding, in which you hear one detail, another detail, and you move the pieces around until you understand it as it's built on details. And it comes to a certain maskana. That's why there's a limit to how much you can only, relate to the fact and detail which is before your eyes. What kind of principle this is based on, what is the sugya about, and so forth and so on. When you're done with that, you can move to the next one. The Zohar HaKadosh already starts using the words not toshma, but tachazi. Come and observe. And we say the difference between hearing and observing and seeing is that when you hear that one thing that's happening at that particular point in time. But when you look, that there was I told the story that there was a commercial for Rolls-Royce in which there was a picture of an entire city. Like, I don't know, New York City, whatever it is, and there's a bridge over there. And you saw the whole city and it started zooming in and zooming in and zooming in and zooming in until it went in onto the bridge and zooming in and zooming in onto the car and zooming in and zooming into the driver's window and zooming in until it zoomed in on the back seat of the headrest of the driver where they had the RR of Rolls-Royce. In other words, when the zoom out, the entire city was being seen, that detail was there as well. The limud of Tachazi is a limud in which the entire comprehension is on a level of seeing. When you see everything. The fact that you cannot describe every detail is because we have a slowdown mechanism in our human comprehension. So it'll enable us to relate to one fact at a time. But the truth is that we see the whole thing in one shot. If you take a person and you hypnotize him and you ask him, what have you seen today? You'll be able to describe every single thing in the minutest detail. Why? Because you saw it. It's not that you heard about it. It's not that you had evidence about it, which is just that particular thing itself. You saw the whole thing. So it's the question, what did you pay attention to? So the limit of Tachazi means that a limit that where you see the whole thing, you got the whole thing, you got all the details, you got all the secrets. The only question is, what are you going to zoom into? It's not where you learn one fact and then another fact and then another fact, like the limud of Tashma. That's why G'dolei Yisrael that are in the level of Tachazi, they see the entire, like from their vantage point of Torah, they see the entire reality. It's just a matter of what kind of things they zoom into. That's why when you come, you ask him from a tzaddik, and he tells the Torah perspective for it. And it's a total insight. Above that, there's another level, which is, we said, this is Da. This is, Kutam Haran Rabbeinu already speaks about, know that so and so and so is happening. This Das is a different Das from the Das of what the Western world called Das, knowledge. It's not an outside knowledge. It's an inside being one with the thing that you know. And we said this, the example is that you know that you're you. How do you know? You just know. That knowledge is totally complete. When you get married, for Adam Yadas Chava, it means that you and your wife are one thing in a special kind of way that allows each one of you to remain independent and to grow and to develop. And the one grows and develops. So we're talking about the Baal Shem HaKadosh. They knew the entire reality, as it were, at that particular moment, at all times. Baruch Hashem, then we speak about Rabbeinu HaKadosh, where Reb Nosson said that when somebody gave him a Shalom Aleichem, he knew exactly what the Shorish Neshama of this person is. Everything that went, that passed upon this person from the time his Neshama was created, all the way to the present, all the way to the future, and all the way to the final tikkun that particular person needed. Because otherwise he can't be in charge with the tikkun of all the neshamas unless you know where they come from, where they are, where they're going to. Ad kan legabe the Baal Shem HaKodesh, Gedulas HaTzadikim HaAmitim. Now let's a quick peek at Sichos Haran for this week. We'll see what it is that Rabbeinu has for us this particular time. Let's take a look. And here we go. This is Sicha 290, Reish Tzaddik. Shamati b'shmo, I heard from the Rebbe's name. Tzaddik HaGodol, that the great Tzaddik, behadibur shomedaber, in the speech that he says, nichlalim bo kol diburim atzrichem kol Israel. That speech includes in it all the kind of things that people in Am Yisrael need to know. V'kol advarim shetzorech kol echad miYisrael. And every single issue, every single illumination, every single eitzah that every Jew will ever need. And this is what it says in Sefer Dvarim. Eile advarim asher diber Moshe el kol Israel. These are the things that Moshe spoke to all of Israel. The dibur the Moshe, the dibur the Moshe Rabbeinu spoke. What comes from him, this is the diburim to the entire Am Yisrael forever. Because each one from Israel found in it whatever it is that he needed, as we said above. You know, there was Lo Aleinu Pigua in Yerushalayim with this not long ago, where Chablim Yamach Shemam, they went, they attacked a bus, and some people were killed. And we're two Haredi guys, one of them, that had the gun that I think his grandfather had with license, and he confronted the killers, the terrorists, and he killed them. And I saw a video of him sitting and reading. He opened up a Sicha of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he took a look at the Sicha, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe was telling whoever it is he was writing the letter to that he was giving a shevach that person was Moise Nefesh for Klal Yisrael. And he says, and not bekoyach, and not a level of possibility, not in a spiritual manner, but be'uv de mamish. He described be'uv de mamish. You faced, you makrib yourself, you self-sacrifice yourself for Klal Yisrael. And the guy that did it, was reading it, and he was crying his eyes out as he was reading it. Because the diburim of a tzaddik, if I had a tzaddik klali, they have to do with each one of Am Yisrael. So it's no wonder this is what it's about. This is why when you open up any Torah from Rabbeinu, when you open up the Kutat Tfilis, wherever it is you open it up, it always has to do with you. It has to do with what it is that you need. It has to do with what it is that you need at this particular point in time. It explains your reality to you. If only you have the eyes to see and the ears to believe and the mouth to beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu to deliver you for whatever it is that you need. As Rabbeinu told Reb Nosson, we learned a few sichas ago. Rabbeinu told Reb Nosson, listen, he said, you, after all, are speaking to people. He says, tell whoever speaks to them, what? What? What do you think? What do you think to yourself? Thinking these thoughts, or being busy with all kinds of arguments, or what? Life comes to an end. Then a person needs to face HaKadosh Baruch Hu and needs to give account for everything. He says, what do you think? What are you busy with all kinds of superfluous inyanim? Of what? What? HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us with that Hashem to come close to Tzaddikim, Ben HaKadosh, Shem Tov, and believe in all the Tzaddikim, all of them. Doesn't matter what the brand name is, all of them. Kulam Kedoshim, Kulam Tahirim, Kulam Gedolim, all of them. Zat Hashem, will be zeicher to see Bevias, Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'ezrat Hashem, soon in our days, Hashem in Binyan Beis Hamikdash, in Geula Shleimo. B'ezrat Hashem, soon in our days, Shkoyach and Shkoyach and Shkoyach, and a great week, and a great month, B'ezrat Hashem. Kol Tov, and a very, very healthy winter. That's Lacha.